So today is October 1st, which means it is time for my annual attempt at Inktober. I'm going to be using these Dr. P.H. Martin's India inks, which every time I look at that logo, I feel like it says Dr. Phil, and I don't know why. It's just my brain. I bought the 12-pack on Amazon, and it comes with a range of colors, including black and white, so I'm very excited to try these out. I've never used them before in my life, so I'm very interested in seeing my progress throughout October as I start using them for the first time, and then see what changes when I have 30 days of experience under my belt. The other purchase I made was this Speedball pen set. It comes with 6 nibs and 2 handles of dip pens, and these are recommended to me because I've heard that like every artist kind of has their favorite nibs that they use, and this was a set of 6 different nibs, so I could try them out and see which ones I preferred, or if I liked a couple of them I could use multiple ones. And it wasn't too expensive. I think it was like $8 for the whole thing, and I thought that seemed pretty good. I don't know, I'm not a dip pen aficionado. What's interesting is the 2 pen handles have like a different size connector that connects to the nibs. So half of these nibs only can connect to the larger handle, and half of the nibs can only connect to the smaller handle, which was a little weird because I kind of like the larger handle better. It just seems more ergonomic. But the nibs that I found that I liked the best were the ones that fit on the smaller handle. So I tested them out a bit, and I didn't know this. I've never used like a nib before, like one of these pen nibs before, but they like the way that they're connected, so that like line that goes down the center is so that you can create like a wider line when you draw with it. My mind was blown. This was so cool. I had no idea, like the way it like separates so it creates a longer line or like a wider line. I was just like, well, that's just amazing. The other thing is like some of the nibs have a sort of tube shape to them, and those ones hold a lot more ink, so you don't have to dip as often, which is why I found myself preferring those nibs, which are the ones that fit onto the smaller handle. And yeah, that's what I learned so far. Once I had familiarized myself to an extent to these new supplies, I mean, like, I'm going to get better throughout the 30 days, so I'm not gonna like get perfect on day 1, but I vaguely know what I'm doing with what I have. It was time to start drawing something. I've decided to use the official Inktober prompt list, and if you don't know what Inktober is, it's this challenge that goes through the entire month of October. It was created by Jake Parker, and I believe if I read directly from the website, it is an art challenge that is focused on improving skills and developing positive drawing habits. So for every day in the month of October, you're supposed to draw something, and they give you like a prompt list that you can use, or you can come up with your own drawings. There really aren't a lot of rules. It's just about, creating those positive drawing habits. So the official prompt for day 1 was the word poisonous. So I've decided to draw something that captures that to me. I guess I was thinking like, sort of like, stay away from that girl, she's poison. Like maybe she's not so good for you, she's not the girl you want to like bring home to your mama, that kind of thing. So that was my idea for this prompt word. Before I'd even started using the inks for this particular illustration, I made sure I sketched out something and like had a pretty good idea of where the ink was gonna go, because I'm very new to using these inks, and while I'm pretty comfortable drawing in pen, which is also in ink, it's definitely a whole nother beast, and that's something I've learned while just practicing with these dip pens, is that there's certain angles that it's kind of hard to move in to get like the line, and like depending on how you move your wrist, arm, you're supposed to move your whole arm, depending on how you move your whole arm or the direction you're moving your arm in comparison with the pen, you're going to get different lines and like a different level of scratchiness. So it's just very different than using a ballpoint pen. So I definitely needed my sketch lines to like work from. Then, once I was happy with where the illustration or the sketch was going, it was time to go in with the ink, and I'm using the black ink first. I've kind of got this idea, like when I purchased this set of all these different colors, I had this idea that for every day of Inktober, I'll use, the black ink for most of the line art, because that's just my idea of Inktober. It's just a lot of the color black. I just like the way it looks in contrast with the white paper. But I want to Also, each day of Inktober, use one like accent color of ink. So I've got 10 colors to choose from, and today I'm going to be using one of those as well. And I thought it would just be very, very cool the way it would look maybe with like just that accent color, you know? Not too overwhelming where it's like a lot of color and it like distracts from the line work, but just like that one little pop of color. I don't know, we'll see how it goes, right? It's only the first day. So I kind of want to apologize for not erasing a lot of the pencil sketch before going with the lines, because it's kind of hard to see where I'm putting the lines, especially visually. Like even when I'm drawing it, it was kind of difficult. Like I regretted it instantly, but inks are wet and you can't like go in and erase that while these are wet, and I was too lazy to wait for it to dry, so I just kept going. But one thing I do want to say as well is that these pens, as much as I like swatched them and practiced with them and just drew random little lines, it was like nothing compared to actually trying to put it into work, like trying to use it the way I would usually use a ballpoint pen, because it's not a ballpoint pen. You gotta use it differently. So trying to do certain curves and like different like pointy edges or different lines, like it was all like learning an entire new medium. It's almost like, whoa, it's almost like it's an entirely new medium. That's because it is, okay? So it was very much learning to twist the paper when I needed to twist the paper, because I'm not used to doing that. I like to just leave the paper sitting there and just draw on it. But I think with these dip pens, that's something that's a little bit more necessary. And I even, while I was doing this, I was like, no, I'm not going to turn the paper. I refuse. I don't care if this pen is telling me I need to, because if you try to go like against the grain of the pen, like if you try to do like a Z shape, I guess, like maybe this isn't for everyone, but for me, like you do that first line with the Z, and then when you go to like switch angles, so you're doing like the next crosshatch of the letter Z, it will like the pen and the paper are like fighting each other, and it's like, no, that's what it feels like. So you really need to like twist the paper so that you can hold the pen at the exact same angle for every stroke. And I guess that was just something like I just refused to accept until maybe the end of this drawing, so I was like fighting it the entire way. Most of my struggles are just coming from being a noob, but I do want to just like do a huge shout out to dip pens, because these were the best eyebrows I've ever drawn in my life, and I think it just has to do with like the flexibility of a dip pen, so right on, girl. Next, I moved on to the accent color, and instead of just doing the entire line art black and then adding like the accent color as a wash, I decided to use the accent color as ink as well for the hair, because I was going to color the hair in with this green color. So I thought, why don't I do the line art of the hair in this green color as well, and then add the wash over top, and hopefully that'll turn out, right? And something I want to get better at, especially for this Inktober, it's kind of like my main goal, is to improve like my line weight variation. So I want there to be like parts of the line art that are darker than others, and parts of the line arts that have like more volume to them. I really don't know how to describe it. I see it, like I can see it in someone's work, and I'm like, yes, I want to be able to do that, but I don't really know how you explain it. Like here I'm doing a little bit of cross hatching with the hair to try and add like some tone difference between this part of the hair and like the hair that's more in the light. But like I want to be able to do like smaller versions of that, so like in tiny little corners of things I want there to be like more volume, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Well, hopefully by the end of Inktober, maybe I'll have improved a bit, so I'll be able to show you like this piece and then the piece that I do like 30 days from now, and maybe I'll be able to explain it better, because I'll just be able to point it. I'll be like, that's what I used to do, and this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I do now, so woohoo! And since I wasn't entirely sure how to go about adding more line variation, what I decided to do is to grab a paintbrush and just fill in a bunch of areas with this solid black color. And I tried to like create a texture to it, you know, like try to make it look like paint splatter. I don't know. I do like the way that it's kind of doing what I said I wanted with the line variation, but like kind of in a cheat way. Like I want to be able to do this where it's more incorporated into the illustration instead of just sort of being a background element. So that's something I'm going to be practicing throughout October. So try to be able to like do what this does for the art, but you know, more incorporated. And then once the ink was all dry, I went in and erased the pencil sketch finally. And then it was time to add in that pop of color that I was so excited about. So using a paintbrush, I grabbed some of the green ink and started applying it to her hair. I was very happy with like the even coatiness, if that's a word, of the ink when I was placing it on the hair. And so I even decided to add like a little bit of a hair shine for the top of her bangs. And I think it turned out pretty cute. And then I filled in where the cross hatching was with the ink as well. And I just really like that texture. I think it turned out pretty good. But then this is where I kind of like go a little off the rails. I was like so happy with the way that the hair looked that I decided, I need to add green in more places. So I decided to add green to her skirt as well, which I kind of regret. In the end, I make this look good, but at first it was just, I think the ink was drying on me too fast, so it was getting kind of patchy. But I go over it with another coat later, which really helped. But I kind of wish I hadn't done any of it at all, not just because it got patchy, but because I really liked the way, because I'd done the line, like I had prepared for the hair to be green, like it was like a point in my head, like it was part of the illustration. So I had like the line art was all green, and then I went in with the green as like the wash of green, and it just looked really good. Like it looked the way I had it in my head. And then I went overboard to the skirt. But, I mean, you'll win some, you'll lose some. I think in future Inktober illustrations, I'm going to try and keep the pops of color to a minimum. I think that'll just help them be more, you know, prominent and more of a focus. Whereas because now there's 2 spots with green, it's kind of like, ooh, which green spot do I look at? Which is not what I wanted. And so now to try and like even out those 2 focal points in the center, I'm using a mid-tone of like gray color to color in the jacket. And I'm doing this by adding a little bit of water to the ink. What's cool about these Indian inks is you can add water to them and, you know, lighten the wash a little bit, but they still dry 100% waterproof. So it's very cool. You can like go over this with your watercolors if you wanted afterwards. I also tried to use this same gray tone as shading, like on like the skull and crossbones in the background. It was so-so. And I kept trying to like make that second, like that behind section of her jacket, like the part that's the inside of the jacket, that's the word, the inside of the jacket. I keep trying to make that darker and darker to try to contrast with like that top section of the jacket, like the collar, because I wanted it to look right, because it's very simple. Like the shapes I used were very simple because I was kind of like trying to maintain my jelly bean style. So it needed more shading to kind of convey the message that I'm trying to say, that this is the inside of the jacket. And so what happened was, I guess this was actually a mistake, or, well, I guess as Mr. Ross would say, a happy accident. I finally had one of those. I went in with the dip pen to try and add some more line weight to the inside of the jacket, but that mid-gray tone was still really wet, so it just exploded, and it just looks so cool. I love it. Like, if I could, like, now that I know that happens, it's like I want to try and like tame it and use it for my own benefit, you know? I want to be able to do something like that. It's just really cool. It's just like that explosion of that dark black color as it like spreads out into the gray. Ugh, I just love it. Like, it's not exactly how it would be if I had complete control over it, but you know, I really like it. I think it was very cool, and I definitely learned something. And then once everything had dried, it was time to attempt to fix the skirt, and I actually just dropped a couple drops of the ink straight onto it and then smudged it around with the pen because I needed a thick, even coat to try and cover this up. And I think for the most part it worked. I do like it better now. Maybe it's too dark, but I mean, that's just the price I have to pay. And with that, I think I was done. Like, here is the finished day 1 of Inktober, my very first time ever using India ink. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited about this month. I know I'll get bored somewhere in the middle, but hopefully I'll stick through it. That's another reason I didn't use all the colors at once. Like, I'll gradually use each color. So it's time to take a picture of this and post it to Instagram. If you want to follow me on this Inktober journey and see all of the ink drawings that I'll be making throughout the month, you can follow me over on Instagram, where I'll be posting once a day, hopefully. I'm gonna try my best. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye.